Hello and welcome all of you to today's conversation on assessment coaching and assessment certification. We're very excited to be having this conversation with all of you, and I am super excited because Matt Dixon from Assessments 24/7 is here with us today and sharing and providing great information and getting your questions answered. Welcome, Matt.
Hey, thanks, Kathy. Happy to be here. Hey, everybody. How are you?
So awesome. Hopefully all of you know, and I'm guessing you do, all the way through, we're monitoring your questions. So type questions in the question panel whenever you want. If you want to be super brave, raise your hand. I can unmute you individually and you can come on live and ask your questions. And of course, a few of you submitted things ahead of time. We do have those, and I think we're going to do a great job of covering that as we go through. So the agenda for our quick 30-minute conversation today, we are going to provide some basic definitions to give us all a common starting point in terms of what we're talking about. We are going to get into the how-to of assessment coaching. Then we'll talk about the reasons for assessment certification. We'll cover how to do that. And then, of course, the how-to of assessment debriefing. So one of the reasons we're so glad to have Matt here is with some of the expertise that comes in with what that looks like when you're certified with the assessments versus coaching with an assessment. So starting off with our definitions, working definitions for all of us. Many of you are familiar with the definition of coaching. I just love the language of this one. It's from the International Coach Federation, and it is that coaching is that strategic partnership. So we really work side by side with our clients, and we empower them. So it's the client that's in charge of figuring it all out. In terms of working with assessments, when we are coaching somebody after they take an assessment, it's truly based on that. We're putting them in charge of exploring it and figuring it out. So when you talk about assessment coaching specifically, it's partnering with them while they review their assessment. We're exploring their thoughts, having them identify their key considerations. And then, of course, just like we do with coaching, they're figuring out their strategies. If you look at the definitions for assessments themselves, they are a validated tool for identifying or measuring specific aspects. When you administer assessment, it's actually pretty simple for everyone. You simply create the link and send it to your client. So we will take a moment and go into the assessment dashboard that is provided to all graduates so we can show you how easy that is. And then in terms of assessment debriefing, when you are certified in an assessment, you're actually interpreting the results. You've been trained to do that and giving that review to the client based on the training that you have in that area. Matt, is there something you want to add to those definitions?
No, I think that's a really great, concise summary, Kathy.
Okay, awesome. Checking in. So I'm going to dive into the side of coaching. When you do an assessment. So first off, one of the things that we say during your coach training is that whether or not you use an assessment is really based on the benefit to the client. And so it's figuring out, does it make sense for them? And if an assessment does make sense, which one? Because you have lots of choices in terms of an assessment. It is incredibly valuable for each of you to look at your dashboard and see what's available. There are sample reports and facilitator guides, etc., so that when you do have a conversation with a client, if you're saying, okay, is it going to be helpful to them? You know what's available, what's possible, and you're exploring with them. What are the reasons for them taking that assessment and receiving that? So then when I have a client that says, yeah, it's really going to help me to get that in-depth analysis through that validated tool, what I'm going to do is prepare myself before the coaching session. So one thing that I do is preview how the report is organized. I'll pull up a sample report on the assessment dashboard. I'll look at it. And I'll be ready to have a conversation with the client. One thing I'll even do is I'll set up a couple of emails and I will insert a screenshot or a snapshot of a graphic that explains the information on the assessment, not from their report, from the generic, this is how it's set up. And the reason I do that is so that before the client sees their own report, they have an idea of what's going to be there, what to expect, and they're prepared to look at, okay, where are they on that report? So when you order an assessment report, and I'll show you this as well, you have the choice of whether or not your client gets a copy as well. And our recommendation to you, Matt and I were just chatting about this, is that you have the report come to you, and then when you are with the client, provide them their copy of the report. The reason for that is if you send them the report ahead of time and you're not there, as we know, some of the research is telling us, they'll start looking at the problems or have a negative impact. When you're there and you're asking them coaching questions, you're going to support them really looking at it in terms of the learning and what they want to do with the information moving forward. So while you are there with the client, provide them their copy of the report. And then quite simply, as a coach, I move into asking them coaching questions. So I'll ask things like, what are your thoughts when you look at your report? What ideas are coming up for you? What are your considerations? And invite them to simply talk through what they're seeing and what their perceptions are as they review their own report. When they have gone through the report and had the chance to review it, etc., then it's time to move forward. What are they going to do with it? So you start asking them, what do they want to work on? What changes do they want? And then you are asking them to define their own strategies and action plans. I'm guessing that sounds super familiar to all of you. You've done your coach training and we know that's how it works. Some of you did have a question ahead of time, or a couple of questions came in. One was where you go for your assessment dashboard. So I'm going to show you that. Another was how you order assessments. And then also we're going to move to this in a few minutes, how you order if you want to become certified in an assessment. And we'll talk about the difference between debriefing the report when you are a coach versus somebody who is certified in that assessment tool. So first off, in terms of where to find your dashboard, every one of you that graduated from the Center for Coaching Certification, we've provided you with the dashboard. And it doesn't matter when you graduated, because I know some of the people here, it was a long time ago, and that's okay. So if you go to the website, put your cursor over resources, the third item down on the drop-down menu says assessments. There's several pages where you can learn all kinds of information about it. And if you want to go to your dashboard, you simply click on the dashboard and you've got it there. Now, your username is your email address. For those of you that were certified longer time period ago, your password is going to be the same as your username. For those of you who have been certified more recently, we gave you a password. In either case, once you log in, you can change your password. That's up to you. The nice thing about just getting to this page is you can go through and do a virtual tour of your own account. You can get information on certification. There is a price list just for graduates in terms of giving the assessments, and that's really nice. And then there are also what are called marketing one sheets. Matt, I think you're very involved in those, and it's this great one-page handout that you can use with people. So all of this is available to you. If you want to get a certification, you can look right here on your dashboard before you even log in. And for any one of the certifications, you choose a direct link in this top section. If you decide, and that's right here for any one of them, if you decide you want more than one certification, you get a bigger discount and you can choose any 2, 3, 4, or getting all 5. And you simply click on the associated link. Now, one of the things that I did is I went ahead and cheated and logged in so that I was ready for all of you. So when you log in, your dashboard is going to look like this. And when you look at your dashboard, somebody asked the question, how do we actually order an assessment for a client? So let's say I'm going to give somebody the disc and I can choose. There's a disc for coaching, there's a disc for leadership, disc for service. I can also give the disc and the emotional intelligence at the same time, for example, so you can choose. Let's say I decide to do the disc and we're going to use it for coaching. I say add a credit. And what I'm going to do is tell the system I'm going to buy one assessment and I add it to my order. It's $26 for graduates of the program, and you simply fill in your payment information and submit it. Once you do that, it will take you to a panel where you have a link. And by the way, when you go there, you're selecting who's going to get the report. And then you have a link that you send to the client. The client takes that link, they access the assessment, respond to all of the questions, and then when they are finished, the report is emailed to you because you set it up that way. Matt, am I explaining this correctly?
Yes, you're on point, Kathy. That's perfect.
Okay. Okay, awesome. So I do encourage all of you to check out your dashboard, both for giving assessments and then also for the certifications. The ones that you saw before you logged in are also available here on your login page. What's nice is that means they already have your name and email and that kind of thing, so it's pretty easy for you. And you can access this anytime. Now, an additional huge benefit you all have with your dashboard is that the Assessments 24/7 team is available to you. They will schedule one-on-one time, help you with your dashboard, how to access it, how to use it, what reports are there, everything. They'll walk you through whatever you want to know.
That's right. We've got our support team is available. Suzette is actually, she's terrific. And many of you, I'm sure, have already had an opportunity to meet Suzette. Mm-hmm. And you can actually schedule one-on-one screen share tours of your dashboard with Suzette. And she'll go over everything as basic as how to log in, to how to purchase an assessment, how to send a link. She'll show you and go over all the resources available with you. She'll spend as much time or as little time with you as often as you'd like. We want to make sure that you're comfortable using it because we've spent the better part of the last 25 years really trying to develop a dashboard that really is a one-stop solution for everything assessments related you need, from the assessments themselves to the trainer materials to the marketing and sales materials to the team reports, the group reports, all of it under a single umbrella.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. In terms of which assessments are available, Matt, let me get these up on the screen. And I'm thinking you are so much more of an expert in terms of just a quick overview of what these are or what the reason is for using any one of them. So if you want to jump in here.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thanks, Kathy. It's what we've done here. And Dr. Tony Alessandra, some of you may know, founded this company, Assessments 24/7, about 25 years ago. He is considered one of the foremost thought leaders in the world on the subject of behavioral and cognitive assessments. He's published 50 books, et cetera, et cetera. And when he started this company, it was to really try to create a comprehensive online assessment solution specifically for coaches, consultants, and HR professionals. One of the things he's done in his research, which has really brought assessments into the 21st century, is developed what he has termed the core assessments methodology or approach. And it's an approach to look at the whole person. You know, in the 20th century, everybody was looking for that silver bullet solution. What's that one assessment that can do everything? But we know human beings are too complex for any one assessment to adequately help us evaluate and help them grow and develop. So what Dr. Tony Alessandra did was he spent a number of years looking at and researching what are the core dimensions of a human personality that have the greatest impact on our professional performance and growth, both professionally and personally. And he identified 5 core dimensions, those being behavioral, motivational, thinking, emotional, and learning. And as a result, from that research came the 5 core assessments. Each of these 5 assessments looks at one of those different 5 core dimensions of the human personality. And each of these assessments provides its own series of different reports for individuals, team and group reports. Each one has its own internationally accredited certification program, its own folder with trainer and facilitator materials, sales and marketing collateral, et cetera, et cetera. And what this really allows you to do is have a number of different tools to work with individuals rather than just relying on 1 or 2 and being limited to looking at just 1 or 2 dimensions of the human personality. You can take more of a whole person or holistic approach to your coaching. So it's much more finely tuned to your client or your colleague. The DISC assessment is obviously the one that most of you are probably most familiar with. DISC is the most popular behavioral assessment in the world, the most widely used today. And it's the first of the 5 core assessments. And as Kathy's put up there, what DISC really does is it looks at the observable aspects and predictable aspects of how someone communicates, behaves, responds, and as a result of understanding behaviors, we can predict and understand their strengths and areas of struggle as they relate to communication, because our behaviors really are the strongest indicator of our success within any given profession or occupation. And so DISC really is a very, very powerful instrument in the sense that it can be used in a variety of contexts. And that's why there's so many different types of reports that can be generated from DISC, as Kathy showed you before. Reports for leadership, sales, customer service, coaching, goes on, even conflict resolution, team analysis, employee selection, very, very versatile instrument. Motivators is the second of the 5 core assessments, and it really is almost like the sister or brother assessment of DISC, whereas DISC looks at how someone is going to behave or communicate or respond or perform. Motivators reveals why, and it's based on the research of Dr. Edward Springer and his 7 universal dimensions of motivation. And when you use DISC and motivators together, what you're getting is the how and why of performance behaviors. And that's really provides you a much more complete picture of an individual. And so these days, the trend increasingly among coaches and consultants and HR professionals who use assessments is to use DISC with motivators. Kathy has here emotional intelligence. That is one of the other of the 5 core assessments. Emotional intelligence has become a very trendy, I'm sure it's a buzzword that you've all heard. We have the EIQ2, which was developed by Dr. Robert Giras, and we're actually in the process of finalizing a 360 version of emotional intelligence as well. And all the research in recent years are showing how important emotional intelligence is, specifically for leadership development. There's some great studies out there that have come out of Harvard, and so emotional intelligence is trending upward very, very quickly and being used increasingly more and more every year. The Hartman Value Profiles, it looks at a person's thinking style, which is really a composite of their decision making, their judgment. It even helps provide insights into potential biases or blind spots that could be undermining their decision making and their judgment. So that's another assessment that's really valuable in leadership development for anybody whose job involves making high-level decisions that affect others. And then the 5th and final core assessment looks at a person's learning style. And as the name implies, the learning styles assessment looks at the way in which a person learns, retains, and applies new information. And in today's world where they say the only constant is change, Understanding how you learn and retain and apply new information is really critical for understanding how you're going to be able to adapt, because adaptability is a critical aspect of how well we perform within the context of any environment. And so what you have here is you have 5 very distinct instruments that each look at an equally important aspect of the human personality. And as coaches and consultants and HR professionals, each one represents a different tool, and you can use all 5 or you can use some combination of them, and depending on the individuals you're working with and what their goals are.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Love it. And for those of you who have done the coach training, you've learned a lot about, as a coach, being aware of these different elements when you're working with the client. This takes that knowledge and just puts it on steroids, because now there's a depth to that knowledge. And what's really great about it is the client has that knowledge around themselves and their own awareness, which really supports what they're doing and how you're moving forward. So love that piece of it. And it works so well hand in hand with all the training you've done in coaching. So if we move into the reasons for assessment certification, keep in mind, obviously, just like with coach training, it's a pro-con, and most commonly the only things getting in people's way are the time and the money behind it. We get that. It's just like making a decision to do coach training. Those were key factors. In terms of doing the assessment, can you give one of the assessments without becoming certified? Yes, you can. You all have the dashboard. The difference is that when you are a coach and you give somebody the assessment, your role in reviewing that report with them is exploratory. You're asking questions. When you do your certification in the assessment, it takes your knowledge to a deeper level, and it expands on it. So you are then in a position of really analyzing the report and giving specific information to the client because you've been trained in that. So Matt, let me throw up a couple of things here and then get you to jump in on this. The assessment certification gives you a deep knowledge in terms of the content there. It gives you, of course, the resources to extended information. Obviously, it's a benefit as continuing education, because the assessment certifications, just like your coach training, is approved by the ICF. It's also, many of you, one of the reasons you chose certification with us is because you're in HR or talent development and you'd like that the coach training gave you CEUs in those areas. That is true with your assessment certification as well. Having that certification is a credibility factor for many people. And then, of course, it creates opportunity for you. Matt, what do you want to add here?
Yeah, and I think that's a great list, and you know, we could obviously get into great depth on each of those because there's so much in terms of resources, in terms of the knowledge. I think one other thing that I would add that I think is proved to be really beneficial for so many individuals and professionals that do become certified in these assessments, and it is the benefit is lifelong expertise. And the other thing that I would add would be the confidence in working with the instrument that you gain. Being able to go in and work with individuals and groups with these assessments with the confidence that you know these reports frontwards and backwards. And the ability to do more than ask questions, as Kathy mentioned, and provide a descriptive assessment. But with the assessment certifications, you learn how to look at the raw data and even apply to the individual's prescriptive analysis and prescriptive recommendations to actually get them real change and real results in a much more meaningful and deeper way. And that goes to the knowledge component that Kathy mentioned there at the beginning.
Yeah, excellent, excellent. So in terms of what do you do at this point moving forward, one of the big questions for you is deciding which assessments you want to explore and review. Check out the reports. Literally schedule time for yourself because we know how busy you are, so that's important. Take advantage and access the wholesale pricing that you have for each and every one of those. When you do want to give a client an assessment, first off, do not tell them how inexpensive it was for you. You definitely want to sell it as a package. So what you're going to do is sell the assessment and the coaching session, or if you do decide on certification, you're going to sell the assessment, a debrief as somebody certified in that assessment tool, and then follow-up coaching. So
that's an important point, Kathy. And sorry to interrupt. I just want to piggyback on that because so many of the conversations that we have with our members is about how to sell assessments. And the irony is that the best way to sell assessments is not to sell assessments. You're selling your time and your expertise and your knowledge. The assessments are just tools, right? And like any expert who uses instruments and tools, your clients and colleagues aren't investing their time and their money to receive the tool in as much as they're investing their time and their money for your time and your expertise and your knowledge to utilize that tool to help them get solutions.
yeah,
So they're buying and paying for solutions, and the assessments are just the tool and the map that help them get there.
Absolutely. So ironically, Matt, I've actually had people tell me that they had a coach that had them do an assessment and then they never did anything with the report. And they were actually really upset. They were like, why did I waste my time taking that? I didn't get anything out of it. So the number one mistake is giving an assessment without the follow-up. So
That's right.
Definitely want the follow-up. Yes. All right.
That's right. Well, and that's what I always joke about. And I'll sometimes use, my wife and I recently purchased a home that was built in 1958. And it's been a challenge and a blessing all at the same time, right? We've invested the last 6 months of our lives working in it. And one of the things that I've noticed in working with contractors on this house that makes me think of assessments is that they're tools. And like when you hire a contractor, say for example, an architect or a contractor to help you build or repair a part of their home, they have tools that they use. You're not hiring them to get their tools. You're hiring them for the results and what they want from it. And so the debriefing of the report and the follow-up is really critical because ultimately what they want is help, whether it be leadership development, sales training, team building, improving communication, conflict resolution, employee selection. That's what people are paying for. That's what they're investing their time in. And that's what you're ultimately helping them with. The assessments are really the tools that you rely on to provide them validated scientific data that steers them in the right direction and provides them the answers and the insights they need to achieve those outcomes and those objectives.
Yeah, and your follow-up is for really highlighting the insights and then planning how to apply it. So recognizing we're going to run short in time, I'm going to give you a few things very quickly, and then of course happy to hang around as long as anyone is here and answer additional questions. So first off, when you do give somebody an assessment, a link to it, it is a self-paced process for them. That is also true when you decide to do an assessment certification. So if you decide, hey, I'm going to do this one or more than one, and you sign up for that, your process for completing that is self-paced. There are elements you do online independently, and then there are elements for which you're scheduling time with the team at Assessments 24/7.
That's right, and that's important too here to point out, because one of the biggest challenges that you referred to early on was cost and the time commitment. And so everyone knows each of our assessment certifications, one of the reasons that Dr. Alessandra's had so much success and these certifications have become so widely accredited is because we've tried to bring together the best of what old-fashioned one-on-one teaching and training and mentorship has to offer, combined with modern technology. And so each certification is only about 10 to 12 hours, assessment certification, and it is entirely 100% self-paced. That means you can do it from the comfort of your own home or on the road or wherever. You do it when you want, how often you want. So you could complete the certification over the course of a couple of days, or you could do it over the course of several weeks. Yeah. But it's all done online. And as Kathy mentioned, it's a mix of online e-learning, self-study assignments given to you by your instructor, and then specific times that you get to schedule with your instructor when you want. And that's where you actually receive that one-on-one training on how to interpret and debrief the reports, which is so critical and so important.
Nice. Yes. And once you've done that certification, when you go to do a session with the client, you're scheduling a debriefing instead of a coaching session because the coaching will come afterwards. How do you do the debriefing? Well, before you get together with your client, you're reviewing the report and you're writing notes. You're going through that information based on what you learned in the certification process. When you get together with the client, you're explaining both the report and their results. And then, of course, you're scheduling your follow-up coaching with them. So that process is how you maximize both what they get out of an assessment and how you apply both giving the assessment, using your knowledge if you are certified, and then also doing your coaching with them. To give you a sense of what's available to you, of course, you're all familiar with the International Coach Federation. They have approved the assessment certifications. We're available to you and provide that assessment dashboard to every single graduate. And then, of course, we have more support with the coaches we have available to you. So do check out the Coach Federation. Check out the Center for Coaching Certification and, of course, Center for Coaching Solutions. We have available to you the blog for additional information, the books that we publish each year, Coaching Perspective series, and then, of course, these free webinars that we do. We're happy to be available for a call or an email if you want to check in. We also are available to support you with coaching programs, coach training, and then having a coach as well. We do want to be available for you. I know Matt's available. I know I'm available. If you want time, let us know. We will send you a link to a calendar and you can schedule that time. For yourself, be thinking, what is your action plan? We talk about reviewing your coach training, what you've done. Be intentional in applying your skills. If you have completed the first stage of your coach training, you're going to continue on to earn ICF membership or a credential. Keep going with that. Think about having a coach for yourself. And then, of course, let us know if you want program support. As promised, we do want to hang around and respond to your questions. Given that we did use our time, I very quickly want to say thank you to each and everyone for being here. We appreciate your time and participation. Matt's contact information is here if you want to grab a quick screenshot. And of course, when I send out the email afterwards, giving you a link to this recording, I will include Matt as a CC in the email so you can email him directly from that as well. So that way you've got his information. And then, of course, we're available to you as well. So thank you, every single one of you. Those of you who do have additional questions, kindly type them into the question panel, or love it when you are brave and want to raise your hand and come on live. It's fun for us to have people come on live and ask those questions.
It is.
Yeah, it adds to it, right? So in the meantime, we're getting comments in the question panel. People are just letting us know thank you. They were glad to get the information. All of you, hey, we're glad this was helpful to you. definitely look forward to being of further assistance and support. Matt, what additional comments do you want to add while we give them another moment to see if they have more questions?
Yeah, just that, as Kathy mentioned, I think with looking at each of you, you're all going to have your own particular niches or areas of focus that are going to kind of determine maybe which of the 5 core assessments, or maybe even all 5 core assessments, you may use. And I'm really here to help you from a consultative perspective and look at your practice, look at your clients, look at maybe what you're currently doing, what you want to be doing, and then offer you some insights and maybe recommendations for which instruments are the best fit for you. And then obviously at Assessments 24/7, getting certified is just the beginning. Because these are so widely accredited, we've innovated by creating the world's first international directory of certified practitioners. So each of you who gets certified in one or more of the 5 core assessments appears on this directory with a link to your website. And we have coaches all over the world. And so that helps boost your search engine optimization, increases your visibility. And so we provide you access to additional tools. There's badging. There's so much. So there's a lot we can talk about. And as Kathy mentioned, I'm here to be a resource. So look forward to getting to meet more of you individually and having opportunities to speak.
Yeah. And I just got to say thank you to Assessments 24/7. We're able to give you such great price points, both on your assessments, if you're giving those, and on the certification. So all graduates of the Center for Coaching Certification, you've got a fabulous deal on the assessment certification. So glad to hear that and glad to know about all those additional resources. Matt, it looks like we're complete. So from the comments, it seems like we've answered people's questions, and really it's just the thanks that we're getting in the question box now. So it seems we're complete, everybody. Thank you so much for being here. We do appreciate your time, your investment in yourself and in that ongoing learning, and look forward to being of support as you move forward and create even more success. Make it a great one, everyone.
Thank you.